for the invitation. My name is Tobias Panduro. I'm head of division at the Danish Agency for Digital Government. So I'm not a scientist, like many of you in the room. I work with digital policy, and Martin asked me to give my perspective on how we build a sovereign, trustworthy ecosystem for AI in Europe, but also what we do as an agency in Denmark to try to make this work at both a national level, but also, as you mentioned many times, Martin, also at the local level, building the bridge to all the great initiatives from Europe, but also building a bridge between science and commercialization. So it's not an easy task, and I will try to go through some simple slides to make it as simple as possible. In the most simple sense, for me it's a matter of building both supply and demand. So in that case, AI is not unique. It's the same for any sector. We need to build both a European supply of AI solutions, but we also need to demand AI solutions in another way than we do today. So I will go through, if this one works, not that one, this one, a simple model, a 3-layer block that I will briefly go through. So the first layer is that we need to invest in the AI science and business ecosystem. So this is the area of building the bridge between science and AI, or science and commercialization, so we actually get the European solutions. And Cecile also mentioned these test and experimentation facilities for AI that is put up at the European level. There are only 4 across the whole of Europe. In Denmark we see those as really, really essential, so we have provided funding from the Danish government to take part in 3 of them in Denmark. There's one on health, one on agriculture, one on robotics, one on smart cities. And another point I would like to make in this area is that these new initiatives that Cecilia also mentioned in terms of the AI gigafactories, for me that is also a new way of investing in bridging science and the commercial sector, because there is a requirement that 2/3 of the funding should come from the business side. Usually it's the other way around. We start with a lot of funding from EU or the government in science. Now we're sort of mixing it, or at least going further towards the commercial side, which is, from my perspective, really, really important to build this supply of European solutions. So that was the first layer in this simple model. The next layer is the legal framework and clarity. It's been talked a lot about also by Morten as a Bermuda Triangle, and that sounds like it's an obstacle, but in my view it's also very, very important, because these regulations are a sign of the European values. Which sort of solutions do we actually want in Europe? Of course, I acknowledge that it's difficult to understand what is actually allowed across these various regulations. And to help in that matter, we have put together a AI sandbox in Denmark, where if you have a project, you can come and get guidance on both the GDPR and the AI Act and learn whether you are compliant. And it's not only for the specific projects, these the guidance will also be available for anyone else who have similar projects, and in that way it will get easier and easier to understand what is actually allowed. And another thing we're doing is, in terms of the use of AI in the public sector, we're also drafting some regulation on what do we actually want to build of AI solutions for the public sector. So instead of having only regulations on what we don't want, we're actually also drafting some regulations on what we do want to build as solutions with AI. And that actually brings me to the last layer on this simple model, which is to build. We need to build some solutions and not just buy standard commercial solutions from big tech. And that requires that we actually start putting up some requirements for what we want to build. In Denmark, we have a long tradition of building GovTech solutions. That could be an EID, it could be digital post solutions, etc. And we do it in a way where we as government own the code. So it's built by private companies, but we own the code, so it's for us a sovereign solution. We could host it on various servers, but it's built by private companies who can also commercialize it and sell it to other nation states or other companies. And it can be difficult to do as a small agency or municipality. And in Denmark we have for 25 years now have been making common digital strategies across the municipalities, the regions and the state level, making decisions together to build common solutions so that we actually can make some requirements on the solutions that we want, not just the solutions that are available on the market today. And just to give an example, now we're talking about AI, we just made a new strategy for the next 4 years across government, municipalities and regions. And in that strategy, there is an AI initiative. And on the face of it, it may sound like just another chatbot initiative, and it basically is, but done in the same GovTech manner as we usually do. So it will be built by private companies, we will own the code, and the uniqueness will be that doing it in that way, we will actually be able to link it to the public data, to the public systems, so it will be able to do things that the chatbots you know today will never be able to do, because we will never allow, say, ChatGPT to access the government data. But we can do it in our way, where it's sovereign, and we own the code, and we're also helping building the commercial side of it, helping companies build the know-how and sell the solutions across Europe afterwards. So, this was, in my perspective, the layers that we need. It's not easy, but we need to invest in building the bridge across science and commercialization. We need some legal clarity, and we also need to take the power back and actually demand the solution we want and start building. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tobias. And I don't know if you answered to all the questions, but I really like that you were concrete and let's say, let's do something instead of let's try to stop another thing. May I invite all the speakers to take a chair, those who have presented, and all, yes please, and also those who have not presented yet, so our two poster presenters, if you could also join here, because we have, what do you say, 7 minutes you needed, so we have 10 minutes now. Morten, I think you said something very, very, very central. You said, don't talk down to us, the way I heard you. Don't tell the social sciences what they should think. So can you say again what it was you said? I mean, the social sciences is not just about human-centric and unicorns.
Well, I guess what I was trying to say, and sorry if it sounded provocative, but I was saying, like, social science, there are also economists, there are people who want to do businesses like myself, and I just generally think that if we always present ourselves as, based on unique European values, I think we're doing ourselves a disfavor, because we also face an existential threat. where we need to survive economically. And I just think generally right now maybe we should just go ahead and make some of these, develop some foundation models and make some startup companies and somehow for the time being bracket the human centeredness a little bit, and instead of talking about sort of like very high principled European values, implement proper AI systems that are abiding to regulation, but do not necessarily abide to lofty principles that I think are difficult to implement in real action.
Okay. Hold that thought. Could I ask our poster presenters, and I know do we have the slides and so on, just to very quickly, and I apologize for this, but just maybe introduce yourself and where you're from, just so we know where you're from, and just the upshot of your poster, so that we know what you bring to the conversation as a voice, and we will add the other poster. And I mean, it's your time then now to be a wall like squash. So now we will have a conversation in the room based on the voices that we've had.
Thank you very much, Martin and Rebecca, for this kind invitation. My name is Ingrid Campo-Ruiz, and I am a researcher at KTH, Royal Institute of Technology, and also at the RISE, Research Institutes of Sweden. My background, I'm an architect, and I would also like to thank you, the European Commission, Maris Lodowska-Curie Actions, for supporting this research I'm presenting today. So I think that AI is a tool reshaping technology, but it's also reshaping how we see the world, how we value people, and how we imagine the future. In this sense, every day, millions of people, where I include myself, we use chatbots, recommendation systems, and generative models to decide where to go, what to do, and, for example, where to visit in a city. So today I am presenting a framework where I'm auditing the results of the outputs of generative AI tools versus the reality data from reality. And I'd like to compare it because I would like to create a framework where AI systems reflect and also support the real diversity of societies and also the values like gender equality and environmental sustainability that are very important. So these systems are very important. They appear objective, but in reality they are based on partial and very opaque data that the companies do not disclose. I mean the AI systems from big tech data. So understanding what kind of outputs they produce, I think it's really important for all of us as a society to understand where are we departing from. So I asked Midjourney, which is a generative AI bot that produces images from text to image tool, to reflect a place in Stockholm that reflects the city's cultural context. And I think cultural context is very important because it defines the identity of people and also their behavior. So it produced this kind of images about Stockholm. I took Stockholm because that's where I'm living and I know well this city. And it looks like very nice places, doesn't it? But then I compared the results with my own investigations around Stockholm. And if you see one place and the other, Midjourney's images, the images I obtained with interacting with Midjourney mostly reflected cafes and like a sense of culture that is curated and commercial. Versus the reality of Stockholm, which has plenty of many different places and buildings and sports places and you name it. And then I did more or less the same experiment with ChatGPT. I wrote lists and places in Stockholm that reflect the city's cultural context. By the way, this was through many iterations to see what kind of places I could obtain. And I built this map of Stockholm with the results. The results of ChatGPT are in the yellow dots. I placed them on the map. So they were basically placed in the city center, the places ChatGPT recommended to visit or to reflect the city were in the city center, and they mainly represented cultural venues that attract a lot of tourists, like big museums or commercial centers. And then I overlapped these results with demographic data from GIS from Stockholm. The dark pink means where people, mostly Swedish people, live in the city. But the light pink reflects the actual reality of Stockholm, which is a reality of over 180 nationalities living in Stockholm. It's a very, very diverse and complex city. And this does not reflect what ChatGPT is saying about what is cultural context in Stockholm. It's much more complex and rich and diverse. So my take from this, for your further reference, this research began in a paper that is now published in Nature Portfolio, if you would like to read it. My take on this is that both text and image AI tools reduce the complex diversity of the urbanized landscape into stereotyped visions of museums, cafes, and picturesque streets that neglect the real experience and lives of everyday of many people in the city. And they convey a sense of cultural context that it's exhibited and commercialized and doesn't leave much room for any other manifestation. So, in my view, generative AI could jeopardize cultural diversity by prioritizing some ideas and places as cultural over others, exacerbating power relations, and aggravating segregation, which is a real big problem in cities where some people with especially low-income residents end up in little clusters where other people don't dare to come in. So just my key point, takeaway points is that I think public institutions should promote further discussion and research on AI tools and help users combine these tools with other forms of knowledge, not be just exclusive. That the AI providers should also ensure more inclusivity when they are managing their data, and also please disclose the limitations of their own data. And that I think, nevertheless, that AI providers and developers and communities, we have a unique opportunity now to produce more nuanced outputs, which promote societal diversity and more inclusive tools for everyone, not leaving anyone behind, and not just caring for the people that are in a very good condition. So, thank you very much for your attention.